Now, there's a mayoral race in Richmond. Joe Morrissey, former House of Delegates member, is the leading candidate for this. In order for somebody to win on the first ballot, they have to win 5. They have to carry 5 of the 9 districts. Polls showing right now Morrissey ahead in 6 of the 9. Maybe gets knocked off in 1, but he is the favorite right now. And as I predicted way back in the summer when everybody laughed at me, I said Joe Morrissey was going to be the next mayor of Richmond, and Bart Hinkle and everybody else at the Times-Dispatch and the various stations all said that I must have gotten back from Colorado or something. What was I smoking? But once again, I'm right. Uncanny how right Joe's going to win first ballot, my prediction. And he's with us right now. Joe Morrissey, former House of Delegates member, leading candidate for mayor of Richmond. There's multiple people in that race. Joe, good to have you with us, man.
Hey, John, how are you? You know, John, I was listening to you. I don't think it's uncanny. You just look at the empirical evidence. You know, anybody can be a pundit, but take Larry Sabato and his crystal ball. You know, one time they got 434 out of 435 congressional races right because they analyzed the empirical data. That's all you did. You looked at the various factors and you made a proclamation. The others just winged it.
Joe, facts don't lie, baby.
That's right.
Facts don't lie.
Funny little critters. They remain the same.
The truth, my friends, will set you free. Joe, so I loved your press conference yesterday. First of all, let's talk about the baseball stadium in Richmond. And let me just frame this for our audience. Some people know about it, some maybe just a cursory review. But there's been a movement underfoot to get the baseball stadium from where it is now to Shotco Bottom. Basically, it's a $55 million taxpayer-financed boondoggle. You got a couple of candidates, Jack Berry being one of them, one of the leading candidates that says, no, I'm opposed to that, but then sends emails that become public that he's trying to work the deal behind the scenes. Now, this is $55 million. Let me just ask you something. $55 million of taxpayer money when the Richmond school system is in a complete shambles. They say they have no money for schools, but they're trying to spend $55 million on a baseball stadium to benefit who? Developers that fund the campaigns of your opponents. You had a press conference yesterday. Tell us what happened.
Here's what I said. I came out and I said, under a Morrissey mayoral administration, no taxpayer dollars will go to a professional sports complex. Period. End of paragraph. And what they announced the other day was this. They're going to build a $55 million stadium. The principals are VCU and the Squirrels. Now, here's the little secret. It said it was undisclosed how much money Richmond would contribute. That's what's gotten us into trouble, spending taxpayer dollars on these big, shiny projects. And here's a fact that doesn't lie. Most sports complexes in the country in the last decade who have been funded by taxpayer dollars, whether it's state or municipality, they go belly up and the municipality ends up holding the bag. And so that's what I said. Don't do it. And we keep getting into this trouble. We did it with the Redskins Stadium. We did it with the baseball stadium down in the bottom. And it's these hidden deals where developers scurry around, buy up the local property that puts us underwater. And here's a Democrat, Morrissey, saying, acting like the most fiscally conservative, prudent Republican out there. But you know what? After I challenged them, Barry, who said last night, the day before, hallelujah about this, backed off. Stoney was funny. He comes racing up to my press conference and says, "Yeah, I think that's right. I just need to study it a little bit more." It's comical, but that's what leaders do. You make a point and you stick to it.
Joe, this is crony capitalism on steroids. And I tell you what, this is the thing that has driven not only cities and states, but the entire country in the fiscal trash can with these deals that are being made. And it's the thing that people hate about politics. And you look at this baseball stadium, I think it epitomizes your campaign, which is, look, you're simply going to tell everybody the truth. And you've got a priority. Your priority is education. It's not $55 million of taxpayer money for a baseball stadium. But here's what happens. The $55 million for the baseball stadium, who benefits from this? It's the developers, like you say. They buy up the land. They work behind the scenes. The land becomes more valuable. They take part of the profits from the money that they basically scammed out of the taxpayer, Joe, because that's all it is. Taxpayers scam. They scam the money, and then they fill the coffers of the politicians that basically crony up to them. And when people talk about a rigged system, that's
John, in this race, you got developer money going to my two opponents, Barry and Stoney. And then yesterday it was pointed out that Stoney got kind of caught up in things, and he says, well, after I left the Secretary of the Commonwealth, I've been brokering the deal behind the scenes. And the reporters go, what? And he goes, he just let the cat out of the bag. And he goes, yes, I've been brokering it, and so we're going to demand today that he release these documents. But let's just drill it down in the simple terms. It's this simple. We have $6 million of borrowing capacity, the city of Richmond, left in the next 5 years. If we go and borrow if the city borrows money to help finance the stadium, we have to pay it back. We have to guarantee it and pay it back with tax revenue bonds, redeemable at taxpayer expense. And I'm not going to let that happen. It's fiscally irresponsible. I'm the only guy that's actually run businesses. 4 of them, 2 law firms, 2 private businesses. I've signed the fronts of checks. I understand business. These folks don't. So it's that simple, and we're going to thank God it came out before the election.
Well, Joe, here's what they understand. They understand the business of politics and the business of big donor money and the business of bundlers and the business of developers funding their campaigns. That's what they understand, at the expense of the taxpayer and at the expense of school children in Richmond who continue to get the shaft because we're prioritizing $55 million to go to a baseball stadium. Look, I agree with you 100%. You want to build a baseball stadium, get private financing, get banks funded, have at it, have a good day. I'm sure if you're mayor and that happens, you'll be throwing the first pitch out in the new stadium. But that's what capitalism is. Somebody goes and finances it. They take that risk. And if it's successful, they make money, whatever. This should not be the object of taxpayer funding. And the other thing that you said that's spot on is... Let me
hold you there for 1 second, John, because you're spot on. But not only should you not be using taxpayer money for these sports complexes, but you shouldn't be using taxpayer money to help other businesses. And I'll give you an example. The city of Richmond spent $33 million on a brewery. Can you imagine the angst of a local Richmonder who put his sweat equity, his life savings, and he builds a craft brewery in Richmond, and it's successful. It's capitalism at its best, and then all of a sudden the city of Richmond comes along and gives land and $33 million to a private business, another brewery from California to come in. It's disgraceful, and I'm just. I'm surprised that more fiscally conservative folk aren't jumping on this. But you know what? We think we've started a conversation about this issue.
Joe, let me just say something. If you live in Richmond and you're a fiscal conservative, there's only one candidate in this race that is speaking truth to power, and that's Joe Morrissey, who is with us right now. Joe Morrissey, former House of Delegates member. Fighting Joe, he's also a leading candidate for mayor. That'll be decided in November 8th in Richmond. Joe, I want to get to Councilman Mosby launching negative ads. There's now a super PAC, Stop Joe Morrissey. That's funded by the developers. But one of your opponents...
No. It's funded, and we found out today it's funded by 2 of my other opponents, who instead of doing it themselves and being accountable, had their donors give money to Michelle Mosby to attack me. Now, isn't that, I mean, come on. If you're going to attack somebody, be a big boy and say, okay, I'm going to do it, but don't funnel money to a low-tier candidate that's drawing 4% of the vote and get her to do your attack dogs. That's kind of silly.
Well, they should put their big boy pants on. Joe, who are Who are the two candidates that are funding Mosby's negative campaign?
Well, we read this morning that Jack Barry's supporters are giving money to Michelle Mosby, both in kind and cash, to do these attack ads. The other one, LeVar Stoney's supporter, Mr. Pollard, is using his PAC to send money to her, because the two candidates themselves, simply don't have the testosterone to do it themselves, because they know it'll backfire on them. So what do? They get a low tier candidate that's not drawing a lot. Here's at the end of the day, Michelle has the right of political expression to say whatever she wants. I happen to believe that negative ads work against you. I've never done it. I just tell people what I'm going to do. So I would defend her right to my dying breath to express her right of free expression any way she wants. However, I draw the line when opponents secretly and in a clandestine effort send money to her to do the attacking they're attacking. It's childish, and as you just said, they need to put their big boy pants on.
Joe, wouldn't we call that political cowardly collusion?
What do we call it?
I'm calling it political cowardly collusion, because here you've got two candidates colluding with a third candidate who can't win to stop Morrissey by having their supporters give her money to run negative ads because they don't have, as you said, the testosterone. I'm just going to be honest. I call it like it is. They simply don't have the courage to put their own name on it. They go to Michelle. She runs the ads. She can't possibly win. There's no pathway for her to get elected, as far as I can see. So they fund her campaign. So she runs the negative ads, because even if they boomerang back on her, she can't win anyway, because they don't have the courage to put their own name on it.
Listen, of the five candidates up there, right, that are viable candidates that are remaining, she's running last in every single ward except for her own, where she's running third. In other words, I'm beating her in her own ward by a significant margin. And so what does she do? She's putting negative ads against Joe to help the other two people. That's call it, let's allow her to do it, but let's just be transparent. When I try cases in court, I tell a prosecutor, this is what I'm going to do. Then I do it. Then I remind him what I did. I'm just upfront about it. She's far less than transparent.
Well, look, it's cowardice as worse. Look, this whole mayoral campaign, Joe, and what you've done is exposed all of the shenanigans that are going on, all the nonsense that are going on. And now the entire political elite in Richmond, the entire machine, the Terry McAuliffe machine, the Democratic Party, everybody's in a panic now because they're going to lose their control of the system by potentially electing Joe Morrissey mayor that's not beholden to any of them. You're not beholden to the developers. You're not beholden to the donors. You're not beholden to the elites, to the establishment class. You're beholden to the people who are going to elect you mayor. And I don't care, Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. The elites want control of their systems, and they've been in control of Richmond for some time. It's slipping away. And so now they have to come up with these cowardly methods of political collusion that just really should be people should be outraged by this.
Well, I think they are. I think Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, if you just look at the facts and you go, wait a second, here's this guy, Morrissey. He's got some personal baggage, let's agree.
Yes.
This guy, he's run 4 businesses, all successful, all under budget. Every time he's out in a political forum, he answers questions with specificity. He's fiscally conservative. He doesn't want to spend taxpayer dollars on big, shiny projects. If you just had the facts, I think they would run to my candidacy. And I think that we see that trend going. But there's another thing that I've done in this campaign. I've spoken the truth. I mean, let's be clear. I'm a Democrat. But I've even challenged, the governor. I said, Governor, you want to build a new football stadium in Virginia, and you want state money to help finance it. I've said put the brakes on that. What Democrat comes out and challenges his own sitting Democratic governor? None other than Joe, because Joe tells the truth. And you know what? It frightens them that I'm doing that, and that here's the other thing that they're worrying about. If LeVar Stoney gets in there, where do all of the political appointees from McAuliffe who are in state office go to when they leave the governor's mansion and his patronage positions in 2017? You know, they transition into the city of Richmond government where they feed at the public trough for 4 more years if LeVar Stoney is in there. But if LeVar Stoney, the governor's hand-picked person, isn't there, then guess who goes into those city spots? People that have the skill set, not just because you know the mayor do you get that job. You get that job because you are the best person for the job. And isn't that what free enterprise and capitalism is all about?
Well, that's the only way you're going to fix Richmond and fix these schools and get the results that you want, by attracting executives in there that are going in there for the right reasons and not just a political patronage job because they don't want to move to Washington and get a job in the Clinton Foundation, which is their other parking spot. But look, bottom line is, when you become mayor and the donors and the elites, they come into your office and they're asking for special favors, you're going to laugh at them. And you're going to ask, what is in it for the residents of the city of Richmond, not what's in it for me.
Saying that. What is
That's
in it for
the difference.
Citizenry?
That's the difference. That's the question that you're going to ask, that they don't want to have to answer that, Joe, because they don't care. That's the bottom line. That's why you're going to win on November 8th. And I tell you what, when you do, I tell you right now on the air, I'm going to take my show, I'm going to base it in Richmond, and I'm going to be the Joe Morrissey Truth Network, because the media there will try to screw you at every turn. I'm going to make personally sure that doesn't happen. Joe, thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it, John. Thanks for calling, and let's stay in touch over the next 20 days.
More information, go to electjoemorrissey.com.